You're watching Euronews now. I'm Takumbo Salako with your top stories. Many are called, but few are chosen. EU leaders are expected to confirm Ukraine and Moldova's bid to become EU candidate members. We'll have the latest from the Brussels summit.
We have to call for decriminalization. I mean, the legislation as it is putting women at risk.
The lawyer of an American woman denied an abortion in Malta tells us why emergency legislation is needed. And Afghanistan's Taliban rulers appeal for international help as searchers dig by hand for victims of the earthquake that killed at least 1,000 people.
After years of fatigue, the question of EU enlargement is back on the table and the focus of an EU summit this week. And although joining the EU is cumbersome, Ukraine wants in, no matter how long it takes.
And doing all the best to make sure that that after the war we are part of European family.
Getting the candidacy status would be a huge boost in morale for Ukraine.
EU leaders are set to grant Ukraine their wish and greenlight the Commission opinion to make the country of 44 million a candidate. But it may remain a mere morale boost, with no timeline for talks set in stone. As beyond the images of war, Ukraine is still a country with major corruption problems, democracy issues and slow growth. But for some EU enlargement watchers, this is long overdue.
I think the European Commission should have offered a membership perspective much earlier, because it is the most powerful instrument the EU has to inspire democratization.
This week's summit is not just about Ukraine, Moldova too, and Georgia, who saw thousands take to the street this week in favour of a European future. They also applied back in March. Western Balkan countries will also be in town, some seeking EU membership for decades. Albania, North Macedonia and Montenegro have given the green light to Ukraine's bid, hoping it might speed up their enlargement dreams. But others have a caveat.
Western Balkans will not be left behind to open doors for someone else, regardless of the political situation. I think that would be a huge mistake.
Serbia has been radically transforming its economy for years in order to be EU ready and watched Croatia join the European Union back in 2013, the last country to do so. But with some highly political sensitive issues, their future, like all other aspiring EU countries, remains nebulous. Maeve McMahon, Euronews, Brussels.
Overnight heavy rain has added to the hardship and misery of survivors from a powerful earthquake in eastern Afghanistan. The 6.1 magnitude quake has flattened stone and mud brick homes, killing at least 1,000 people. It was the country's deadliest in 2 decades, and officials are anticipating the death toll will rise.
Around 2,000 to 2,500 houses have been fully destroyed and many people have been wounded. All the houses are destroyed and now we need tents and all other necessary items.
Getting help to the area is not easy. The roads, which are rutted and difficult to travel in the best of circumstances, have been badly damaged.
There's a search and rescue operation going on, and there are some medical supplies that are being given. The Norwegian Refugee Council is assessing today the situation in Host province, and tomorrow we're joining other agencies to look at the situation in Patika.
Afghanistan is already in the midst of a humanitarian and economic crisis. In a rare move, the ruling Taliban quickly called on the international community for help. More than 60% of Afghanistan's population of 38 million already relies on international aid to survive.
A desperate American couple is trying to leave Malta for a potentially life-saving abortion. Andrea Prudent and her partner have appealed to the country's authorities to allow them to leave after she started showing signs of miscarriage, including bleeding, while they were on vacation. The couple originally asked for the abortion due to the threat to the mother's life, but Valletta denied the procedure, saying it's not allowed under any circumstance.
Let's hear more about this case now from Lara Dimitrievich. She's a lawyer and women's rights activist in Malta. She's representing Andrea Prudente and her partner in their fight to terminate her pregnancy. Well, thanks for taking time to speak to us here on the programme. Doctors have made it clear that her life is in grave danger. So tell us what's stopping them from saving her life.
Well, I mean, Malta, we have a total ban on abortion. So there are no provisions for emergency situations, such as a situation of the mother's life being in danger. So under all any circumstances and under all circumstances, abortion cannot take place. So now we are left in a situation where Andrea is waiting basically to have for her body basically to reject the pregnancy in a natural process, whilst trying to keep her stable, which obviously is prolonging the situation and also exposing her to a situation where she might develop sepsis and putting her at very grave risk. So yeah, this is basically what the situation is currently. We've had this total ban on abortion since we've had our law. This is not the first case that we have come across, although not very common, but it is a medical situation. And for the ones, I mean, in the case of Andrea, she's just waiting now for medical evacuation to take her to another hospital in Mallorca to have the termination done.
You mentioned there are other cases, and the interest in this case has generated more women coming forward, explaining their cases, that we're receiving those reports on social media. So what legal avenues are open to you now, then?
Well, I mean, the situation is we have to call for decriminalization. I mean, the legislation as it is putting women at risk, whether it's in a medical situation that Andrea and women would be in, but also other women that for whatever reason might potentially not be able to carry a pregnancy or just simply wanting to terminate the pregnancy for their own reasons. So that's what it is, it's a total ban, and women are now looking for clandestine situations. So we either have women that are leaving, Malta and trying to find access to abortion care elsewhere. Malta remains only the only EU country where there is a total ban, or purchasing the medication online, so purchasing the tablets online, and then obviously doing it in a clandestine and illegal manner, which is exposing them to criminal liability.
Indeed, it's good that you put in that reminder that Malta is the only country in the EU with this strict total ban on abortion. Do you think cases like this and the interest that it's generating are going to help perhaps overturn this law?
Well, one would hope so. I mean, we have been calling, as women's activists, we have been calling for, for the state to decriminalize and legalize abortion, because this has become untenable. I mean, we are in the 21st century. We are in 2020. Malta is at the forefront on many equality laws. We have just recently introduced the recognition of femicide in our law, which makes it only the second country within the European Union that has done that. So we still kind of can keep on calling that, listen, as a state, we need to now start treating women with respect. I mean, there are state obligations, and women are not second-class citizens.
Lara Dimitrievich, a lawyer there and women's rights activist, joining us from Malta. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Europe must be prepared for Moscow to turn off the gas taps by the end of this year. That's according to the head of the International Energy Agency, who called on the West to reduce its demand for gas and instead turn to nuclear energy. Fatih Birol also warned that the EU's efforts to preserve gas stocks do not go far enough. Russian energy giant Gazprom has cut its supply in recent weeks, but according to Birol, this is just the beginning. Countries dependent on Russian fossil fuels are now under pressure to refill their storage tanks in a race against the clock. The EU is now turning to other international suppliers, including the US, to buttress supplies.
We're going to take a brief break on the programme right now, but if you want to get more on our top stories, do visit our website, euronews.com.